Once you know the truth, you are free from all the rules and regulations of society. That's the idea. In fact, there is a small group of 8 verses known as Sukhashtakam. An Ashtakam, group of 8 verses, written by Shuka, Vyasa's son. There, he says, a person who is like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, describes a person who knows the truth. And then ends by saying, Ko vidihi, ko nishedaha. Vidhi meaning you are supposed to do this, this, this. Nisheda means you are not supposed to do this, this. He says, how can you have a vidhi or a nisheda for a person like this? Even the Vedas do not declare that. A Vedic do or a don't is called vidhi nisheda. Okay? Even the Vedas do not declare. Because you are free from that whole chakra of do's and don'ts and rules and regulations, etc. Does that mean a wise person will behave as he wants? No. He doesn't want to disturb the society. Though there have been wise people who have behaved like that also. From Rasputin onwards. Okay. Yeah. Who is to decide how the wise person should behave? He has to decide. Yeah. If you are functioning in society, you will function in a manner that people in the society can relate to you. So, that much of rules, regulations, etc. he will give into. Of course, what is legal, illegal, those things naturally you will follow. Why? You are living in a country, so these rules, regulations, etc. are applicable to you as much as to anyone else. You can't evade tax and say, the government is harassing me. I am a sadhu. You have a trust, you have to follow trust rules. You have a company, you have to follow company acts. Those are natural things that are there. Yeah. Here we are talking in terms of ethical, moral standards. Okay, those things gone, because all that is dharma is meant for you to grow. The highest growth possible is to know the truth. After that, kya hai? Yeah. Nothing. But the dharma becomes an ornament for you. That's what it is said, The values, etc. are ornamental. They are not meant for you to achieve anything. They are ornamental. Well, he is a good person. That way. Yeah. So after all that, he says, okay, then 32nd verse. Okay. Atmayo aupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yo Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogihi paramo mataha. Sayogihi paramo mataha. This is yogi. Yogi here meaning jnanavan. Okay? Not someone who stands on his head. Okay? Yeah. But why is the term yogi used? Because remember the chapter is on meditation. Okay? Therefore, your mano nigraha. Therefore, from that context, he is taking off yogi. Paramo mataha. The greatest of all the yogis who Atma aupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati. Hey Arjuna, who sees the same Atma everywhere. Nobody, nothing is really different from you. In reality, there is nothing different from you. It's all the same. It's a big thing to recognize that as existence, consciousness, there is nothing other than you. What is other than you? Is there anything that's independent? Is there anyone, a person who is not pure consciousness? With a name and form and some gunas, some qualities, some function, etc. That's it. Or an object that exists, a spectacle case, old fashioned, old man's spectacle case. Yeah, it's an old fashioned case, but it's very functional. Your Specs are the safest in this type of a case. Name and form is nothing but pure existence. Nothing but pure existence with a name and form. Therefore, really speaking, not different from me. Because I am also the same existence. Functionally, name and form. So functionally I can say, this is my spectacle case. Is it really my spectacle case? Kya hai andar? Oh, there's a spare pair of specs. Okay. Because I suddenly found it in the maze of my table, There is a lot of similarity between my table and a lady's handbag. Things are likely to disappear or manifest on their own. So this manifested out of the thing that is my table. So, name and form. Manifest, unmanifest. No, it didn't go unmanifest into pure existence. It was only hidden by other things. But that's all that is there. What difference is there? Vyavahara is there, of course. Vyavahara meaning your transactional world, your functioning world. Your functioning world. The functioning world was always going to be there. The world of names and forms. The names of entities. The world of entities to deal with. Therefore experiences. Therefore what? Sukham va yadi va yudukham. Some experience will be happy experiences, some will be unhappy experiences. Why? Because the wise person is also functioning through a human body and mind. I have not yet met an inhuman wise person, In all my traveling in the Himalayas, in all my meeting wise people from all over the world also come there. In all that, north, south, east, west I have traveled. I have not met an inhuman wise person. They have all been human beings. I know pet lovers would love it if I had said I had met a wise dog. But unfortunately, no. I had to disappoint them. Nor a wise elephant. Meaning who knew the truth. So, since that is not there, therefore human experiences, human emotions will be there. Some are happy experiences, where the ananda that you are will manifest. Some are not that happy experiences, that ananda that you are is not going to manifest. Why? You go to someone's house and you find that someone has died there just now, out of COVID or whatever. This is not a happy experience for anyone. But can you be rooted in the knowledge of what you are, that you are ananda, going through a happy experience, going through an unhappy experience? You are always ananda. That is the hallmark of wisdom. That is the hallmark of self-knowledge. And now with that, therefore such a person, sa yogihi paramo mataha. He is the best of the yogis that are there. Now, Krishna has been speaking on and on. Probably he took a pause for things to sink in. That time Arjuna thought, Arey, here is my chance to ask a question. I really don't think this is Arjuna's question. This is Vyasa putting that question through Arjuna's mouth. For all of us. I'm sure Arjuna didn't have this problem. If you really meet Arjuna through the pages of the Mahabharata, this type of a problem he wouldn't have had. This type of a problem he wouldn't have. But all of us will have. All of us will have. Therefore he is saying this. Arjuna vacha yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatva stitim stiram chanchalam hi mana krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. Arjuna is saying, what is he saying? Okay. Yoyam ayam yoga. Yaha ayam yoga. That yoga. This yoga. Okay. Okay. Tvaya proktaha, that you have talked about. Samyena madhusudana, as being always in balance. Centered in the self always. Okay. Etasya aham na pashyami. Stiram etasya stiram aham na pashyami. Okay. Chanchalatvat manaha chanchalatvat. Therefore, to be always rooted, mind being focused on this knowledge, always being alive to this knowledge, I don't see it happening. By manas chanchalatvat. My mind is a monkey. My mind is a monkey. You know what to do? Okay. Yeah. Not only that, he goes further to say, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. I am not saying my mind is Chanchalam. What is called Chanchalam is mind. Disturbance is mind. Mind is not disturbed. Like you say, na, trouble is my middle name. Aisa. Trouble is my middle name. Similarly, my mind, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Mind is Chanchalam. Not only that, Pramati, Balavad, Dridam. Pramati, indolent, lazy, stubborn. Pramati, strong. Dridam, stubborn. Okay. Pramati, Balavad, Dridam. Can be figuratively stubborn. Refusing to do. Refusing to do things. I have met people like this coming for my counseling thing, you know. Whatever he says, Swami, I can't do. Swami, I can't do. Then I tell them, go. Go and, what do you call, pay for your counseling sessions. If you pay for your counseling sessions, you will value it and you will do it. Because the counselor is willing to meet you every week, because every week she is getting something. Nowadays they charge quite a bit, couple of $1,000 for every session. So when you pay that much, you will feel the pinch and then you will start doing it. Yeah. Therefore, okay, Pramati Balavad Dridam, that's figuratively stubborn, refusal to do things. Okay. Pramati Balavad Dridam. Tasyaham Nigraham Manye. To control that, to master that, I think it is Vayoha Iva Dushkaram. Difficult to do. Like trying to grab the wind, trying to block the wind. Dushkaram Manye. Very difficult, he says. Very difficult to do. Problem that all of us face. Okay, this is problem that we face. Okay. Arjuna wouldn't have become a Maharati if he had this problem. If he had not mastered that problem. Okay, remember that. Okay, if he had not mastered that problem, Arjuna would not have become a Maharati. Yeah. Forget Maharati, even to be an archer. You know how many things you have to keep in mind? Okay, left hand you're picking up, holding the bow. Straight. Once you're strung it and everything, okay, all that. Then right hand, pull it back. Shoulder up, in line with the shoulder. Elbow and shoulder in line. Left foot at this angle. The three toes grabbing the ground. The first main toe just touching. Other thing should grab the ground. The K1 point of the hand should be sucking the energy of the earth. Your weight is etc. on the back leg, which is also in the same position. Both your toes are parallel to each other. Your body is in alignment. Your center of the head, center of your heart, your nabhi center, perineum center, the center point between the knees, the center point between the feet, all in alignment. If you say Chanchalami Mana Krishna, can you do all this? It is as bad as a yoga pose or as good as a yoga pose with the strength necessary to pull it back. Practice bows used to use when you are just practicing for getting your skill. Pulling back that bow takes 50 pounds of strength. It's like going to the gym and lifting 50 pounds in a rowing exercise. One hand. War bows were at least 100 pounds. Each time you fire an arrow, you're pulling back 100 pounds you have to control. Your arm, on one side your arm and your triceps and your shoulder. The other side your shoulder, your wings, your lateral dorsum. Pull down your scapula. All that has to happen. And how fast are you firing the arrows? You're not taking 5 minutes for one arrow. Half a dozen has to go in a few seconds. Couple of seconds, half a dozen has to go. Chanchalami Mana Krishna hota hai aisa? That's why, see, when you know these things, you will understand. This is Vyasa putting it through the mouths of Arjuna. So that teachers can tell their students, Arjuna ka bhi ye problem tha, then where are you in the picture? You will definitely have it, don't worry. No. This is addressing our problems, okay? Our problems. Because a good teacher, someone like Vyasa who wrote it down, can envisage the problems a student may face and help deal with it, okay? Now, alright, the question is nice. What about the answer? Kuch shortcut tip hai kya? I wish it was there. Kuch shortcut hota tha, I wish it was there. Look at what Krishna has to say, okay? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Varagena Chagrihyate. Okay. This is simple. Who says the mind is not chanchalam? This is Bhagavan is saying, Asamshayam Mahabaho. It is true. Without a doubt. Manaha Durnigraham. Mind is difficult to control. Chalam. It is difficult. We accept that. And chalam keeps getting disturbed all the time. I agree. ऐसा ही होता है. We are talking about a monkey, mind as a monkey. Can you imagine what a monkey's mind will be? If my mind is compared to a monkey, no, I said, thoda imagination will help you understand, What will happen to a monkey's mind? My God, Vanara mind, क्या हो जाएगा? No problems. We had great bhaktas like Anjaneya, great sevaka, great bhakta, great jnani. Correct or not? So that monkey mind is not a problem for them. Na? Then there is hope for all of us, okay? And he gives you a tip how to do it. Abhyasena ta kaunteya. There is nothing other than abhyasa. Abhyasa is what? Repeated practice. Repeated practice, nothing else. Vairagena cha. Having objectivity in life. Where will your mind run? The second part is very important. Where will your mind run? To something that you are fascinated about. No? So your mind will go to those areas where you're fascinated about something. I want that, that is so good, that's so. Mind will go there. Or, I can't stand this character, idiot here, okay. So, wherever there is ragadvesha, the mind will go there more. The mind will go more to an areas where there are ragadveshas. How do you get over that ragadvesha? Objectivity, vairagya. See the limitations of everything that your mind is fascinated by. Mind can be fascinated with 100 different things. A sense of objectivity helps to overcome that. Because mind can be fascinated with anything. What is it that the mind is not fascinated with? Anything and everything it can be fascinated with. From a beautiful flower that you see, and invariably you will want to go and pluck it. Why? The need to own. It's a beautiful flower. It looks very beautiful in the bush. Let it be. Let it be. No, Swamiji, is for my puja. I want to offer it. Okay, I can understand that. But can you not appreciate the glories of the Lord with that flower in the bush? It stands offered there. Another way of looking at it. So, that fascination of the mind, objectivity, bring in all your learning, all your understanding to master that mind. And the mind has a habitual pattern of having to jump. This is very necessary for the mind's function. Okay. I have 25 people on the screen. So when I am just shaking my head this much, I am seeing everyone. No? So when I am seeing everyone, my mind has to jump from people to people to people or not? Very essential for functioning. Very essential. If your mind were not going to change fast, you will never be able to see things. Everything will appear superimposed on one on the other. You will not be able to see things distinctly if the mind didn't change fast. Yeah. Therefore, mind has to change fast. So that we are very comfortable with. That is our habit. Why? Because right from the time you are born, you are looking at things. From the time you are a baby and you learn to focus your eyes, your mind was changing fast. Why? Because so many uncles and aunties are coming. No? Some of them you can't stand, but you are helpless. You can't do anything about it. But your mind is changing and you are okay with that. Yeah. So that is what your mind is used to. To be focused, quiet and remain in one place, the mind is not used to it. The mind has that inherent ability is there. If the mind did not have that inherent ability, nobody will be able to meditate. But that inherent ability is there in the mind. Therefore, with abhyasa, with practice, abhyasa means repetition. With some repetition, that attempts, it can be mastered. That habitual pattern, it's a habitual pattern. You create new habits. You created a habit by repetition. Therefore, new habits are also created by repetition. Abhyasa literally means repetition. In fact, in Kerala, I have always told this. There is a very funny term, You see, look at a man and say, oh, you know that guy? He's an abhyasi. Abhyasi means what? He keeps repeating something. No, in Kerala it's a Lakshana Vakya. Abhyasi means he's a Kalari practitioner. Where Kalari is the form of martial art, one of the oldest. There's only one older art than that. The Vajramushti, that from where Kalari was developed. It developed from Shiva. Okay. Therefore, there's only art. And why is he called Abhyasi? Because the heart of martial art is what? Repeated movements until it becomes instinctive for you. Until it becomes instinctive. You keep repeating a movement until it becomes second nature. So I just said, your center of head, center of the heart, center of the nabhi, perineum, all should be in line. When you're sitting like this, it should become second nature. Everything has to be in one line. It is there in yoga also. Haven't you seen the yoga acharya sitting ekdam barabar? But they should be careful that they don't arch their back. They should tuck in the tailbone and then only the perineum comes in line. That's what many of them miss. The tucking the tailbone they'll miss. Second nature for you. Why? Because you have done it enough, practiced it enough time, so the body naturally goes into that position. Like you'll find some people when they sit, they'll slump. I don't think you can see the whole of my body. They will slump. Why? Second nature. That's how they've been sitting. Very unhealthy for the lower back. Very unhealthy for the lower back. You can be relaxed, that's a different thing. So, okay, sometimes I bring in some principles from outside into the thing, okay? Because it helps people understand. How do you get that as second nature? Anything becomes your second nature if you do it enough number of times. So the mastery of the mind also will become your second nature if you have done it enough. Like how the mind changing is second nature. You don't have to make an effort to change your mind now when you're looking here and there. Similarly, the mind remaining in one place also will become your second nature if you have done it enough. How long? Some time. You can put a time frame on this. And there will be days when your mind will always be a monkey only. There will be days like that, don't worry. Okay, one tip for you all. Because we are supposed to live in harmony with nature. Everyone talks about living in harmony with nature. Okay. Full moon. A lot of energies, That time focus on a lot of those type of exercises and things like that. Movement oriented and high energy, etc. Towards new moon or no moon, focus more on meditation, etc. You will become better. Like from now to Shivratri, Amavasya, Shani Amavasya, great Amavasya on Saturday. Focus more on meditation. That's why they say Shivratri, whole night. Why? Mind is calm. It's calmer rather. There are upward rising energies, but they are very soft, gentle energies that help you calm down. So this Shivratri, spend a couple of, after our program, which gets over at 8:30, have some milk or fruit or something like that if you like to. Whatever. Don't make it too rule bound. Do what is comfortable for your system. But something light. And the night, see how long you can meditate. Karo. It's okay, take a break, have some water, then come back and sit down again. Don't do it after 12. Okay. Because after 12, certain other energies from your system will come up. Okay. Certain animal instincts may be aroused. So if you are been meditating for a long time, etc., you will be able to handle that. Otherwise, some of the energies that come up may be a little dicey. So after 12 o'clock, don't do it. Okay? Unless, of course, you are good enough to go into samadhi. Then no problems. If you can go into samadhi, go. Get up whenever you get up, in the morning or whatever. Swamiji, what if I don't get up? No problems. Problems for others after that. What problem do you have if you are in samadhi? If you don't get up for 3 days, we'll break a coconut on your head and put a tomb for you. Finished. Okay. Don't worry. Your prarabdha will pull you back. Okay. Your prarabdha will pull you back. And if you are really worried, you'll go into samadhi and not come back. I have children, etc. Abhi samadhi mein jayega, nahi aayega, kya karega? If you're really worried about that, wear something metal on your hand. A bangle or a bracelet or some metal. Okay, on your body, wear some metal. That contact will make you come back. Okay. These are all tricks of the trade. That's why when monks meditate, they don't have anything metallic on their body. They may have a Rudraksha mala, that's all, nothing else. That much metal may be there, but not more than that. Why? They are okay if they go. क्या फर्क पड़ा? हाँ, one limitless awareness अभी क्या है? Experientially also one with the limitless. But if you have other responsibilities because of which you have to be here, okay. I see one or two people looking worried. Don't worry, I'll be around to teach you all. Oh, sir, डर मत करो. Okay. Those who want to learn, I'll be around for a long, long time. I must have been a great papi in my last lifetime because I am supposed to have a very long life this time. Okay. My last lifetime. ये lifetime में पूछो ना. Okay. Therefore, all right. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena jagruhyate. So with abhyasa and vairagya, you can master your mind. And once your mind learns to be where it is kept, knowledge will never be out of sight. So you work on handling the mind, you work on the knowledge simultaneously. Simultaneously you work on that. So some meditation you will do, some preparatory meditation, some owning up meditation. You will keep doing that. If you have got sufficient insights, you can lower your preparatory and focus on the owning up meditation. But if you have certain issues, etc., with people around you, etc., then the preparatory meditation of acceptance of people and all that we talked about, focus on that. So both together, a time comes when, hey, it's all clear. When did you get the clarity? I don't know. Right now it's all clear. You'll never be able to pinpoint and say, oh, this was this, etc. You can pinpoint an experience of sudden insight, etc. That you may be able to pinpoint if it has happened to you. It doesn't have to. This knowledge takes place in two ways. Sometimes like a flash, oh my God, this is it. So when people like Jaggi, Vasudev, etc. talk about it, they're talking about that flash-like experience, okay? It'll be funny if I say when I had that. I had that in a train traveling from Bombay to Kerala, okay? You had to go to on top of the hill, Chamundi Hills, and sit down and meditate. I am an urban Swami. So this was before I joined the ashram. I'm going from Bombay to Kerala by train with my parents, everyone. But I think the last trip I took with my parents before I joined the ashram. And I'm opening the book and I'm reading Vedanta. और क्या करेगा ट्रेन में, इतना लॉन्ग जर्नी है. I was already decided to join the ashram. My parents didn't know about it, that's all. And suddenly I was reading something, it all clicked. Arey yaar, this is true. So after half an hour, my mother is saying, you are not turned one page in that book. What are you reading, or sleeping, or what? I said, okay. I was thinking, और क्या बोलेगा? और क्या बोलेगा? I mean, I think it was half an hour, I don't know. Because after that lunch came around. So I said, I don't remember when I started reading it. Okay. I know after breakfast I had started. Big deal. That's a flash. Need not be like that. It can be like that, need not be. It can be like a Polaroid camera. You take the shoot and the film comes out. What is it? All grey. You can't see, it's all blackish. Nothing is seen. Then slowly, the picture starts emerging. And after a few minutes, the picture is clear. Now it is clear. So some of people's experiences are like that. Hey, look at it. You're keeping on learning. After some time, what? Hurray, now it's all clear. You can't pinpoint. You don't have to. Even if you get an experiential flashpoint, after that you have to work a lot on it, okay? That Polaroid experience still comes in, because there's a lot to be done after that. If you think that is enough, you're making a fool of yourself. Yeah, really, I'm not joking. Because it's after that I joined the ashram and learned. Experience. Vedanta is not experiential. Vedanta is cognitive, understanding based. Okay? Alright. Therefore, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena cha grhyate. Okay. He is making a qualification here. Okay? Asamyatatmanaha yoga dushprapa iti me matihi Vashyatmana tu yatata shakyavaptum upayataha. This yoga, this jnanam, dushprap is difficult to gain. For whom? Asanya yatatma, whose mind is not mastered. Difficult. Iti me matihi. My thinking is, my understanding is this, that if you are not mastered this, your mind, even though the strength of the traditional teaching, nowadays traditional teachers have to be a little bit of an entertainer, tell stories, etc., so that your mind is there. So because of the strength of the traditional teaching, you will get insights. But you will not be able to own up in your life unless your mind is mastered. Whereas he says, Vashyatmanaha tu yatataha. Once you have mastered your mind, then this jnanam shakyaha avaptum shakyaha, you can gain this knowledge upayataha, by using the right pramana, the right means of knowledge, etc. Not trying to figure it out by yourself, not trying to figure it out by your experiences, but learning the Gita, the Upanishad, etc. Okay? By that learning, you will definitely gain this knowledge. Therefore, see, there are two aspects to this learning. Okay? There are two aspects to this. The hardcore learning is in the teacher's hand. Why? Because he has to teach. Another reason I ask you all to put on your videos is that I can make out who's understanding, who's not understanding. That flicker of the eyes, the slight wrinkling of the eyebrows. I know thoda doubt hai idhar. We can make it out. No, you can make that out. That's called body language. How observant you are about body language. Yeah, that's why I invested in a laptop. If I just was going to talk to myself, my phone is good enough. Because I want to see people. What type of a teacher am I? And so that is in the teacher's hands. Your learning will happen only if the teacher explains well. Mastery of the mind is in your hands. Somebody asks how to get that objectivity. Okay? How to get that objectivity? Simple. Appreciate a thing from all its angles. See what it can give you, see what it cannot give you. What it can give, what it cannot give. What is the value of the thing, where it is, which value it doesn't have. Simple. We always add a subjective value to everything. That's called Shobhana Adhyasa. Putting on a subjective value to an objective thing. Because everything has its own value and everything is valueless in some time. Beyond a point, it doesn't have a value, but up to that point, it has a value. So when you appreciate it that much, that's called objectivity, and it keeps growing on you. Don't worry, because different points in life also, different things will mean something to you. Yeah. Those of us who are grandmothers or grandparents here, do you want to bring up another child now? No way. I got a couple of kids, both ho gaya. I mean, I would love to look after my grandchild for some time. Where was younger, I would have a child of my own. You know, that growth, etc. Yeah, now that growth, etc. has happened. It is true. Having a child will take care of a lot of growth. Nobody says no. But now, enough. Yeah, I've been through once. Yeah, second time as a grandparent, I can correct some of my mistakes I made as a parent. That is true. But that much only. Not be responsible 24/7. Been there, done that. Ho gaya. So even a positive value like being a parent, you have to be objective too, no? Someone saying, I want to have a dozen children. It's not an objective value today. A dozen kids? One or two is good enough. No? One or two is a handful. One or two means 25 years you are tied up. It's a beautiful experience being a parent. I brought up 2 pairs of nephews and nieces, so I know what it is, what it takes. Yeah, and the commitment it takes, the calmness it takes. Yeah, my sister was staying with us and the kid will be crying in the night. I'll wait for a few minutes, then see the kid is not settling down. By the sound, I know the kid is not going to settle down. I'll knock on the door. Come on, pass the kid out. He'll keep you also awake. I said, no, she won't keep me awake. You're the first time mother, you're too tense. So I'll walk around with the kid for a minute. Kid settles down, put the kid on my chest and 2 pillows on either side so that the kid will not roll over. And the kid and I are sleeping happily. Big deal. But a first time mother, you're too tense. Swamiji, when did you become first time father? Never. I learned to be calm. I learned to be calm, and therefore that calmness comes into all functions. What is the point in you getting worried when the child is crying? I mean, does it help the child or you? So that is a learning. Even if the child is crying, you become calm, you look at what the child needs, give what the child needs. That is the learning part of it. And I can imagine many young mothers thinking, Swamiji, it's easy for you to say, you know. Hey, if you learn to be calm, it will be easy for you also to say it. But generally we become parents very early before we are not learned it before. So we learn it as part of being a parent. It takes a couple of months of sleepless nights and topsy-turvy lifestyles where everything is going in 6s and 7s. And people will give you good advice. Sleep when the baby is sleeping. When? When the baby is asleep, you've got so many things to do. By the time you finish, the baby is awake again. So with all that, you can cultivate a sense of objectivity and that mastery over the mind, etc. So certain things are valid then, certain things are no more valid. So at that time, the objectivity was different. The stage in your life, your objectivity is different. Yeah, or otherwise you'll be like this grandmother who's telling her daughter-in-law, anything for the child, ask me, I will tell you. My son who's a pediatrician, he doesn't know anything. That is not objectivity. That you're being a control freak in spite of being a grandmother. You struggle with your kid, now let your kid struggle with his kid. You are there for support if they need it. That's it. That's objectivity. So can you see what is objectivity as a parent, as a grandparent? Things keep changing. But at every stage in your life, you need that objectivity. To live a normal life. Without being freaked out here. And for Vedanta, all the more. That objectivity becomes necessary. So that objectivity and abhyasa together, you will get it. So there is still about almost 10 minutes. Let us do some abhyasa. Yeah. Until this chapter is there, we will do some meditation. After that, you will do on your own. Okay. So this is to get you all into the groove of it. Okay. All right. So you sit erect. Okay. There's a straight line right from the top of your head to the bottom. If you look at it that way, your body is automatically aligned. Okay. Whatever, you are sitting on a chair, you are sitting cross-legged, however you are sitting. Imagine there's a straight line right through the center of your body. Actually, that is the central energy pool that is there. The central energy channel. The main channel of energy is like that. From your perineum to the top of the head. All the chakras are there in it, if you all believe in those things. It's not on the backbone, as people say. Okay, so we sit erect, eyes and mouth gently closed. And if your body has to be aligned, you should be looking straight in front, not up or down. So see that you're looking straight in front, but your eyes are closed. Some of you are raising your heads upwards. Drop your chin down. Drop your chin. Be self-awareful to know whether I am raising my chin or not. Eyes and mouth gently closed, facial muscles relaxed. Neck muscles relaxed. Arms, forearms, palms and fingers all relaxed. Chest muscles relaxed. Stomach relaxed. Sides relaxed. Upper back, lower back relaxed. Waist and hips relaxed. Thigh muscles relaxed. Knees, calves, ankles, feet and toes all relaxed. Look at the body in one sweep of vision from the head to the toe. It's relaxed. To quieten your mind further, just pay attention to your breathing. Breathing happens, you are just paying attention. Now invoke the Lord in whatever manner you can relate to and offer a mental worship. Take the arati plate for the final arati. Light that camphor. Offer the arati to the Lord. See the Lord's face being lighted up in the light of that arati. Put down that arati plate. Take the arati yourself. Prostrate to the Lord and sit for your japa. In the japa, your focus is on the silence between the chanting. Om Ishaya Namaha. 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 You are the silence in which the chant is born, and into the same silence the chant dies down. You are that silence, silence awareness, untouched by thought. Right now, my words are creating thoughts in your mind. They don't disturb the silence that you are. They only help you pay attention to the silence that you are. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamugacchate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You can cup your eyes and come back to normal thinking. You know, I keep saying come back to normal thinking. Actually, this is the normal thinking. The silence, focus. And then in the silence, the thoughts happening is what is normal. Okay. Now, if you give me a minute or two, there is one question that came up, okay, just before we started meditation. There was, how can this objectivity be applied to relationships? Simple. You know, when two people are in a relationship, it can be any relationship, professional, personal, married, romantic, teacher, student. There are always expectations. My expectations come from my own mind. which to a great extent I project on the other person. The person will be like this, like this, like this, like this. If about 70% of them are fulfilled, you should be very happy. Why? The other person is a separate entity. Nobody can fulfill 100% of your expectation. Don't expect that from your teacher also. I'm never that guy. I know some of the young girls who come to me, they'll say, it'd be so nice if someone was like you, if you had a kid, if you had a son. I say, I'm one of the most difficult person to live with, you don't know me. Too independent minded. Too used to doing my own thing. So, you have expectations. Most expectations of a guru I can fulfill. Yes, that is true. But not all. Why? Because I don't know what the expectations are. I know what I have to do as a guru. Even if I know, I may not be able to fulfill it because I may not be able to fit into that pattern. So to recognize this in all relationships, that the other person is what the person is. You may want that person to be different. You can try to help that person be different if that person wants to, if that person thinks that is important enough. But if it's important to me, is it not important to him? And then you will talk about unconditional love, if accepting each other as they are. Hey, what happened to that? What happened to that part of accepting each other for what they are? So, this is objectivity, that the person can be certain things that you want. Certain things the person cannot be. Or will not be. Okay, he can be, but he will not be. Alright, he will not be. He is not comfortable with that. Or she is not comfortable with that. Then what? Did you have a relationship agreement before you got into a relationship? Like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. Where they have a relationship agreement. You are supposed to do this, I am supposed to do this. Once a month we are supposed to have a date. And he says, well, you didn't say I can't outsource something in a date. Therefore all compliments are outsourced to my friend. He will give you the compliment. I don't have to give it. That's not how things are done. Okay. So there are certain unsaid expectations, which, as I said, 75% fulfill, you're okay, fine. Because there's two people in a relationship, that is the growth area, to be objective enough and big growth area. Because there are two people, they're not one and the same. There'll be very boring relationship if you are relating only to yourself. The other person is your carbon copy, you will get bored. Yeah, there's no growth, nothing. You know what the other person wants before the person thinks. Boring ho jata. The challenge is in trying to understand the person. So certain things have to be common, that will create some harmony. Certain things have to be different, that will create the challenge. So be able to accept that and say, this is it. This is a relationship. There is a objectivity comes into a relationship. Yeah. Otherwise, only 25 years you are trying to change each other. Pull. Fights. Pull. For what? And by the time both are retired, you start accepting the other person. And say, now our relationship, we are happy. Why couldn't you be happy right in the beginning? Right in the beginning you were, because the first flush of love, you will be exactly what the other person wants. That's called the first flush of love. ये सब अनुभव की बात है, करना चाहिए. Okay. It's all part of growth. So be objective. It helps. Okay. Good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.